Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime with Mr. Jerome, where we tell stories that matter. This Friday we'll be reading once again from the Jesus Storybook Bible. We're going to be picking up where we left off reading the story, God Makes a Way. The children of Israel had just been set free from slavery from the land of Egypt. Moses had just gone before Pharaoh and he had finally been able to get Pharaoh to let the people go. And we're going to be picking up right as they had just left Egypt. We're going to see whether or not Pharaoh really kept his word and let the people go. Let's read together.
God makes a way. Moses and God's people escaped out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They didn't know the way, but God knew the way and he would show them. I will bring you to a new home, a special land, God promised them. I will look after you. I am with you. God sent a big cloud for them to follow, a pillar of smoke stretching up to the sky. It moved in front of them as they walked and shaded them from the blazing heat of the day. And when it was time to rest, it stopped. All through the cold desert nights, it kept them warm, glowing like fire. God led his people through the desert to the edge of a great sea. They were just wondering how to cross it when suddenly they heard a terrible thundering and pounding. It sounded almost like horses' hooves. They shaded their eyes to look back and screamed. It was! Pharaoh and his army were coming to get them. Pharaoh had changed his mind again. "Get my slaves back!" he screeched and charged out into the desert after them with 600 of his fastest horsemen and every single chariot in Egypt.
So Pharaoh had changed his mind yet again. He had changed his mind so many times before when the children of Israel were still in Egypt. He would say, "Oh, I will let the people go," and then he wouldn't. And now, even though he's finally let them leave, he's decided, no, I cannot let them go. We need our slaves, because he wanted to use them. He wanted to take advantage of them. So now he's sending the Egyptian army to chase them down.
What were God's people going to do? In front of them was a big sea. It was so big there was no way around it. But there was no way through it. It was too deep. They didn't have any boats, so they couldn't sail across. And they couldn't swim across because it was too far and they would drown. And they couldn't turn back because Pharaoh was chasing them. They could see the flashing swords now, glinting in the baking sun, and the dust clouds, and chariot after scary chariot surging towards them. So they did the only thing there was left to do: panic. "We're gonna die!" they shrieked. "Don't be afraid," Moses said. "But there's nothing we can do!" they screamed. "God knows you can't do anything," Moses said. "God will do it for you. Trust him and watch." "But there's no way out!" they cried. "God will make a way," Moses said. Another minute and it would have been over. But then the strangest thing happened. God made the pillar of smoke move. It moved behind his people and hid them from the Egyptians. Then God sent a strong east wind to blow all night long. It blew on the water of the big sea. It blew it to the left and it blew it to the right until it blew it into two towering walls of water. And there, right through the middle of the sea, a muddy pathway opened up. And God's people walked across on dry land. When the Egyptians tried to follow, the walls of water crashed back down on them and swallowed them up. God's people were safe. They danced and laughed and sang and thanked God. When there had been no way out, God had made a way. Many years later, once again, God was going to make a way where there was no way. From the beginning, God's children had been running from him and hiding. God knew his children could never be happy without him. But they couldn't get back to him by themselves. They were lost. They didn't know the way back. But God knew the way. And one day, he would show them.
Isn't that amazing? Just think, imagine all that water being pushed to either side by this invisible force and being able to walk across the sea on dry land. That is incredible to me. I can't even begin to imagine how cool that would have been. And God was willing to do that for his people because he loved them and he wanted to save them from the army that was chasing them, to make them go back and be slaves yet again. That is what God does for people he loves. He saves them. We know that God loves us. God loves you. So you never need to be afraid. God will always protect you and be with you, even when it looks like things are going to be so bad and there's no way out. God will be there, just like he saved the children of Israel. Now, it's time for our Learning Minute.
In today's story, we talked about the Red Sea, which is right here on the map. Can you see it? It has those 3 red arrows pointing at it. That little blue thing on the map is the Red Sea. The Red Sea is full of water and full of life and fish, and people love to go there and spend their time at it having fun. But there are bigger bodies of water in the world than the Red Sea. In fact, we just flew over one. Those huge bodies of water are called, what you see right there on the screen, that word, they're called oceans. The oceans are huge. Most of our planet is covered in oceans, and the oceans are full of amazing creatures and all kinds of amazing things that we'll talk more about this school year. Here's a question for you to discuss with your parents. What would it be like to live underwater?
I hope you enjoyed that Learning Minute, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Storytime with Mr. Jerome. Join us this Monday at 7 p.m. for another story that matters. Don't forget, parents, there will be a link in the description if you want to purchase a copy of this book for yourself. Also, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.